and welcome to Brilliance today. And this is a series, it's called Voices of Strength. And what's Voices of Strength all about? Well, it's an anthology of 17 brilliant, amazing, and courageous men who have dared to be vulnerable and share their story. And today we've got an amazing, amazing gentleman with us today. I couldn't get the word out there, and it's Sam Dossa. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Brenda. How are you today? Thank you.
Oh, thanks very much, Sam. It's wonderful, wonderful to see you. And that smile, and that is part of your story. You found your smile, and I think it's helped change your life. And we're going to find out a bit more about that in a few moments. But first of all, Sam, just introduce yourself, say who you are and what you do.
So my name is Sam Dossa. I'm an emotional intelligence coach, author, and speaker.
Wow, that is succinct. But let's just ask you, why are you an author, a speaker, and a coach? What is it that drives you?
You know, the driving factor is, it's quite an interesting phenomena of my journey. And when we talk about emotional intelligence, a lot of people are still scratching their heads as why an emotional intelligence, because everybody is talking about IQ. We have always been embedded with IQ, that your IQ has to be top notch, and why you need to have an EQ now. And that's where I started my journey, and not realizing that that's a very important caution in our journey, our life. As an individual, as a father, as a mother, as a business owner, as a human being, you have to have emotional intelligence in you. But we do not utilize that skill sets. We think that that is a weakness in ourselves, but not realizing that is your biggest weapon, which you can utilize in every circumstances of your life to bring some amazing opportunities, results with your personal life and with your business life. And emotional intelligence is the key to our success in every part of our way of life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's given me an opportunity to become an author and a speaker. And I remember my speaking journey. Everybody started up somewhere, correct? When people says to you, we'll give you a mic, and in front of people you stand up and you say, I'd rather jump on from the bridge than I speak in front of people, because that's the ratio, as that's the also been said in so many places, that people are afraid of public speaking. And I thought I was very afraid of public speaking. And when I dive into it, I remember it was like shaking and sweating and not realizing. I never used to have a sweat shower from my armpits, and I'm holding the mic and I can feel the shower coming out, and I said, what's going on? And that was my, anxiety, and
I know.
expectation is so high, and I'm looking, everybody's watching me, and I can't say the words and everything. But well, we have to have a journey, we have to have a growth mind to become what you become. And touch wood, I would say, surrounded by beautiful people like you and all other people, my wife, they've given me and uplift me to the next level.
Excellent. So let's get a bit of focus on all of that. And you're right, emotional intelligence is far superior to IQ, far superior. You'll go further with emotional intelligence, and particularly the part of emotional intelligence, it's all around awareness. And I'm talking about awareness of self. And Voices of Strength is a book filled with stories that show there are men who've had enough of the status quo. And you write that in your story. And they are vulnerable, and they find that inner strength. We're not talking about the muscular strength here. We're talking about that inner strength of vulnerability, resilience, of saying no, of making choices, all the things you talk about. So let's just explore it a wee bit more so people can understand where you're coming from, Sam. So vulnerability is a superpower. Yet for men, it's alien. It's even more alien than standing up and speaking, I think, to think that being vulnerable. Can you, from a male perspective, tell us in your own words, what does it mean as a man to be vulnerable?
It's very difficult to a man to be a vulnerable person, because in society, we are always being projected that male has the upper hand in every level of every life, every decision. A man is the one who is going to make the decision. Woman is going to be the second class citizen, seems like it, in the society, because it's a man's world. That's the standard statement. It's a man's world. You can't survive. And with the man himself, sometimes feels that how much pain, how much suffering we are going to keep inside ourselves, because we are not showing ourselves how deep down we are unhappy with our life. But showing that vulnerability shows that you are a weak person in the society. People does not want to be shown as a weak person, and we are being conditioned like that from the childhood. You take a child from coming up from their age of birth to the 7 years, they are being properly conditioned how they have to behave in the society. If a boy is crying, a man or a father or a mother says, "Why are you crying like a baby? Why are you crying like a girl?" Crying is only for girls, not for boys. Society is changing right now. When a boy cries, mother do cuddle him and says, "What's happening? Why are you crying?" But it's not the way we are being brought up. We are being told, be a boy, be a boy, not be a sort of a gullible person. You want to show that you are strong. Nobody can actually touch you. And that's how the conditioning done. And same as the conditioning done for the woman. So you can bring this now to that age limit where two men and women are in a relationship, and woman is always been told that, oh, you have to be vulnerable, you always have to talk about your issues with your friends, your everything. But when it comes to a man, he's going to fix all your problems. And that's what man does. We fix problems. You come to us with your scenario, you have the answer to all your scenarios, all your problems and everything, but you just want your husband, your partner to listen. But what we do, we fix your problem. And when we start fixing your problem, what it happens then, you said to me, to the guy or to the husband or to the boyfriend, thank you very much. I thought you were going to listen to me, but you're not. You're fixing my problem. I know the answer to my problem. I don't want my answers. I want somebody to listen. And that's where the biggest issue happens. And when a man becomes vulnerable to a woman, it becomes completely opposite. She never expected a man to be a vulnerable person. And from her perspective, she says to him, if you want to be vulnerable, go to your mother. I'm not your mother. Correct? And he get confused. And he says, whether I can be a vulnerable, whether I can always show I'm a strong person. And that's why we keep everything inside ourselves. So what happened? We suffer with heart attack. We suffer with pancreatic cancer. We go through with unsettledness of our emotions. We come out as angry. We get our, what I call it, even though we do not have that much hormones going on in our body, we are on periods, always in a different time zone. And that's what is happening with men, because we do not articulate. So how do we articulate? We do articulate going into gym, pumping the muscles, going for steroids, or we become fist of anger against our loved ones. And that's the devastation we create. The relationship destroys this all. And society does not help. Society does not help, because we are always being told to be strong, to showcase your son that you are the strong one. I was doing a DV course, and the facilitator was telling us about one of his clients, and he came to me and he says, well, I slap my wife every day. You say, why? Oh, that's my father has been doing it for last 40, 50 years. He slept my mother all the time. So I've learned behavior. I do the same thing. So what you are learning, the father is teaching that this is how you control your woman. You control your woman like that. And that's why we are not being given a proper way of articulating our emotions as a man.
So, Sam, I love your explanation. It is brilliant. And we probably could just talk about vulnerability. But what I want you to answer now is, when did you learn to be vulnerable and realize it was your power?
When I got divorced in 2013, and I left my children with their mother. And that time, when I returned back to my house, to a 4-bedroom detached house in Sunbury-on-Thames, and I was sitting in one corner and thinking, I lost everything. How am I going to survive now? There is no noise coming in the house. The entire house is empty. And I was crying. And I'm thinking, what's happened? Why this all shattered down? Where did I make my mistake? And that's when I had an inkling came to me and says, this is your strength. Now you use this strength to help others. It's not that you can cry about it. There are thousands and thousands of people like you who are going through suffering like you. How they're going to come out from that suffering? You have to become that strong pillar for them. You have to come out and say, life is not going to be ended. Life has to start to a new chapter. You start your new chapter. Begin a new chapter. Here I am, showcasing you. This is my vulnerability. I've been through to a DV situation in myself. I was being financially abused. I was physically abused. I was sexually abused. But here I am, as a man, showcasing my vulnerability to you. This is what I am right now. And I smile upon it and I move forward with my life.
And that was my next question that you touched on, because Sam, you've got an amazing smile. You just walk in a room and it's lit up. So tell us about this philosophy you've got about the smile, because you talk about that in your story. You say, and I always smiled. So again, that's another powerful tool.
Absolutely. I learned this. I learned this last 7 years. It's not that I learned a long time ago. It's last 7 years ago. You know what happened is with my life, anything good or bad happen, I smile upon it. It reduces my stress level down. We had several episodes in my life and my wife's life where we lost so much income and so much thing. And I laugh about it. And my wife says to me, why you are laughing? I said, well, if I cry about it, what's going to happen? Let's laugh about it. Let's laugh about it. Yeah. Nothing is going to change, because when you acknowledge it, when you don't, people will not say that, oh, this guy is talking about it's not very easy. Yeah, it's not very easy. I'm not saying it's an easy journey. Everybody has to go through with their journey, trying to bring solace into their self to become that person. As we talk about emotional intelligence, the awareness comes into you. You started to learn awareness and understand everything happens for a reason. It's a good or bad. And you start living in the moment, not living in the past or in the future, because we do not know what is going to happen in the future. What you have now. That's why we talk about your past is a history, your future is a mystery. What you have present, correct?
Yeah.
And that's the present day and the present moment.
Yeah.
Every moment you spend with your loved one or the person who you want to connect, that's the precious time. And that's why I enjoy right now the moment. I live in the moment. And that's why something happens the day before yesterday, something happened and I smile upon it and I says, oh, thank God. Thank God.
I love it. I love it. Now, I'm a great believer, you've already touched on it, that whether good things or whether bad things in life, you smile you know. And certainly from the west of Scotland, we laugh at even adversity because it's our medicine to help us through it. But what's important for me is that when something happens, there's a lesson. So you've had a number of challenges in your life. I've stopped using the word adversity. Challenge has got a positive energy to it. And you were challenged when your mother died, with your siblings, etc., and all around it. What was the lesson that you've taken now and you share with other men from that very dark place that you found yourself in?
You know, the word challenge does not exist in my dictionary. It's called adventures.
Oh, I like it. I like it.
So the adventures. Yeah, my mother did a suicide. And it was not an easy suicide. Everybody think about it. You know, everybody thought, okay, I can jump on from the bridge, or I can go under the train, or I can drown myself. But she actually lit herself. And it was 97% burn. And in that burn, she was 2 weeks prior to coming to me here in the UK to assist me with my twins, because my partner was expecting my twins at that time. And 2 weeks prior to that, she did a suicide and lit herself. And he was in so much pain, and it's not in the UK, it was back in Pakistan. And she went to they took her to the hospital, and because it's an inquiry, because why somebody has took their life with this sort of atrocity of putting a kerosene oil and then lighting herself. So she was in that pain and spoke to the doctor and said to the doctor that this is not a police case. This is the act I've done myself. So I do not want my children to be punished. And in that scenario, the doctor says, how could you speak when you are 97% burned? Your body must be so painful. But she wanted to pass that message so that my siblings, my brothers will not be punished with any sort of atrocity happening. And the lesson what I learned, I did cry about it. I did cry about it and why my mother has done that. And I understood that she wasn't happy within a right place. And she wasn't very open about talking about it. But the lesson what I learned is that you have to share your vulnerability. You have to share what's going on. If you don't ask, you don't get. Happiness is an inside job. Happiness is an inside job. It's not an outside job. If you do not say anything, how I will know? I do not have a crystal ball. I can read your mind. I can say to you, I don't think you look okay. But I will give you permission to talk to me, or I will ask for permission to ask you questions, but I can't force you. But here I am as an advocate for men, for mental health, specifically for mental health, asking men to be vulnerable, asking men to come up, because your life is precious. You are not going to take that away, because your children are going to suffer when they hear that our father has did these things, because he was suffering. Because, my father was so amazing person. And unfortunately, our bond was very limited because of the culturally bond we were. We are 5 brothers. And brothers, we are 5. My mother was the only female in the house. So you can imagine, one lady, 6 men. So she was surrounded by men. And I luckily surrounded by women because I have my 3 daughters. My wife have 2 daughters. Between us, we have 5 daughters. I got 6 women in my life. So emotional intelligence is very important for me.
Yes.
So the grace of the universal light, the grace of God, whatever you call it, has bestowed that blessing on me to be
Wow.
here, to
Wow.
become, I would say, the light or the path for person to come on that path. And that's the beauty. That's the beauty. I cherish this beauty every moment of it. And I said, I'm so blessed with that.
Oh, well, Sam, that's amazing. And you know, you are just the epitome of voice of strength. It's about vulnerability. And you've shared such deep, vulnerable subjects about your personal life with us. And that takes courage. And that's the first step to transformation. But you also wrote about a mantra. We are born to win, but conditioned to fail. And you've been explaining that eloquently. But I'm thinking about flipping that on its head, because we're conditioned to fail, but we're born to win. You know,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
something about flipping that, where we're on that and win. And I want to ask you about that winning, because you say something that I believe in, it's in my DNA, and you were talking about a holistic approach to the work that you do. How do you explain that to a man, what that holistic approach is, that's part of what you're doing in your work with men and the mental health? How would you explain a holistic approach?
You know, the men, especially we men, are very conservative. We do not talk about our vulnerability. We are not here to share. Until a man opens up in a group, they ask, or they can see, as this person has a courage to open up, I should as well. And that's how I put my hand out and says, here, I'm giving you my hand. Take my hand. Let's go on a journey together. Instead of pushing somebody to be vulnerable, nobody is going to be vulnerable, because society has not allowed us to be vulnerable. Because people will think, if I be vulnerable, I've opened my secrets to somebody else, he might harm me, or he is not going to be the trustworthy person. So creating a space where it's compulsory for us to be holding that space, for a safe space for the person to be vulnerable, to be open, to be in a place where he feel trusted and connected. And that's where I create a space for people to come together and be who they are. And it's I'll tell you, you know, I went on a men retreat, and it was so painful that there are 30 men in the group, and there was not a single man said that he was not going through a problem. Everybody was going with a problem, whether it was with his mother, with wife, with addiction, whether it's a mental health issue. There were issues people were going through, but they can't speak out because of the society norm they live in. And they can't talk to their siblings, or they can't talk to anybody else, because they were being looked at or judged. How could you be weak? We always look at you as our pillar, as a strong pillar in our household. How could you be weak? So he do not have an opportunity to be a weak person. So he has always to be holding his space as I am in control, I'm smiling, I'm always going to take care of everything. What happens? Suddenly he passed away. Who is going to look after everybody? But unfortunately, that was the situation with men right now. And we bring in small places where we bring in all the men to come and just share. There is no judgment. There is nothing. We are here.
Exactly. That is the key. There's no judgment, because, as you said about being conditioned, men are conditioned in thinking that, well, if I say I cried because my wife left me, or my mother died, or whatever, you know, or I'm just feeling anxious, or, you know, I'm worried about X, Y, and Z, finances, whatever. But actually, the strength and that vulnerability, as we've talked about, is just it's just amazing. And that's why I've brought together 17 amazing men like you, because this is you are the seeds to grow and let the light shine more. I call it ripples of brilliance, you know, brilliant in your vulnerability, brilliant in your inner strength. So let's talk about inner strength. How would you describe inner strength to another man?
The inner strength comes from your awareness. Once you become aware of who you are, started to know exactly who the person you are, how you would like to be treated, how you would like to be listened, how you would like to be acknowledged. First of all, you have to acknowledge yourself. First of all, you need to become self-aware of who you are. First of all, you start loving yourself. When I said to another man, "Do you love yourself?" and he looked at me and says, what sort of statement you're telling me, brother? Huh? Why should I love myself? Well, the light of universe is sitting in you. So if you don't love yourself, how are you going to be loved by others? Because you always trying to please other people, because you think, I'm pleasing other people, they will look at me and be empathy with me or empathize with me. That does not work like that. That does not work like that. I was talking to this brother, and he said, everybody take advantage of me. Everybody take advantage of me. I said, why? Because you never look after yourself. You always pleasing other people. You do not look after yourself. What you want? What sort of life do you want? And then he realizes that you should be number one. I realized that when I was going through with upheaval in my life with my ex. I realized it one day, I'm going to be number one. I want to look after my health. I looked at my physical health, my emotional health. I want to eat eat the food first. I'm not going to feed my children. I'm going to eat food first. That was the regime I'm going to take. Whatever people have said to me, I'm not going to listen to them, because if I'm not going to be the strong in that sort of unit, how I'm going to support others? How I'm going to support others? If I'm not looking after my nourishment, how I'm going to support others? How can my glass is empty. How I'm going to pour somebody else?
Exactly. It's like the oxygen mask, isn't it? You put your oxygen mask on first, you know.
Yes.
And like, you're using a lot of the analogies I use, but so I know we're soul brother and sister, Sam, for sure.
Yes.
I love this, what you've said, that you want to help people to uncondition their conditioned minds. And we're kind of coming full circle as we draw this conversation to a close, because you started talking about that we're all conditioned. How do you uncondition a conditioned mind?
That some people will think is very hard, but it's not. It's all about, when somebody says change, I'm afraid of change. But I thrive on change.
Yes.
And this is, again, if you have a growth mindset, you can start thinking the things in your life to become better for your, whatever conditioning is done to you, you can uncondition a lot of things. It's not that fast, doing fast or everything fast. Take your time. Take one step at a time. It's about enjoying that change, enjoying that life-changing episode happening in your life. If you're not really enjoying it, what's going to happen is, oh yeah, I was supposed to do this. I've just done it. Thank you very much. I moved to something else. But you did not enjoy that. How many of us do write a book, deliver a workshop, do a speaking gig, whatever you do, how much do you enjoy it? How much do you enjoy that success? When somebody says success, oh yeah, I've done that. I've done a bungee jumping. I've done a book. I already wrote about 5-6 books. I've already been on the tour. I did this. I did this. Did you enjoy it?
Exactly. Enjoy the process. It's not the destination. It's not the destination, because we're forever growing, and that's right with the mindset. And then you talked about growth mindset. Change creates growth. You know, it's being on the edge of your comfort zone. Beyond it is where great things happen. Nothing happens if you stay inside that ring that you actually imprison your own self.
Oh,
You
yes.
know? Absolutely imprison. And just one last thing to finish up on, Sam, if that's all right.
Yes, sure.
And you've mentioned it a few times in your story, and people can get to read a lot more detail in your story in Voices of Strength. And that is, you talk about faith. You talked about abandoning your faith. And then what was it that brought faith back to you? And why is faith so central to who you are today?
You know what? My childhood, I would say, is very focused on serving the humanity or serving my community, I would say. So from my childhood, I've always been part of a club's scouts or a club, or a what I call it, helping in the community. We call it, we do not call it mosque. We call it community center or jamaat khanas, which is gathering of social gatherings where we bring everybody together, when men and women to come together.
Yeah.
And we serve from the childhood, and that was part of our identity, my identity. And when I came to this country in 1996, there were times when I was going through with so much upheaval in my life, and I lost my faith. I said, you know what? I have to work hard to serve my partner. I have to work hard to make sure that I have food on my plate. I have to do this. I have to do that. Not realizing that the faith is the path of salvation or surrender, which will automatically bring everything to you.
Yes. Yes. And I love that. And I really was jumping up and down that you talked about surrendering. You know, you talked about submitting and sort of letting go, but surrender is an absolute must if you want freedom in your life.
Yes.
If you let everything entrap you and you don't surrender to something, and again, that's vulnerability, and that's where the strength lies, you know. So I do love that. And actually, I'm going to take away from this conversation what you've just said, Sam, that faith is community. It's that giving and sharing in a community. And it's my favorite thing of making a difference.
Absolutely.
And Sam, you've made a difference by being vulnerable, by sharing your story, but more than that, by telling us who you are today. And you say you're proud that while helping others to do so, I am that man. What would your parting word be to someone? What is that inner strength? What is it that you want to tell the mental health for the men who are listening to this today? What is that one parting word of wisdom you want to share?
Be the change. Ready to live your life with fullest. Full stop.
Amen, brother. Amen to that. Thank you very much, Sam. It's been so wonderful having you here. So remember, everybody, surround yourself with brilliance, just like Sam has done, and be sure to get a copy of Voices of Strength, which will be out on the 17th of June. Thank you once again, Sam.
Thank you very much, Brenda.